Hello everyone, please hit the subscribe button on your screen and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. The day I saved Alexander Blackwood's life began like any other, with him barely acknowledging my existence. 6 months of dusting his priceless artifacts and polishing the marble floors of his sprawling estate had taught me one thing: billionaires build fortresses not just with walls, but with silence. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwood," I said, as I did every morning at precisely 7:30 a.m. when he emerged from his East Wing bedroom. As usual, his steel-grey eyes glanced over me as if I were another piece of furniture. A slight nod, that was his version of courtesy. His tall frame moved with practiced precision through the breakfast room, where I'd already prepared his usual black coffee and protein shake. Not a word of thanks. Never a word of thanks. I'm Zora Wilson, 34 years old, with 2 degrees gathering dust while I clean the home of one of America's most reclusive tech billionaires. The job paid 3 times what I could make elsewhere, and my mother's medical bills wouldn't settle themselves. Pride is a luxury I couldn't afford. What no one tells you about the ultra-wealthy is how the emptiness of their massive homes mirrors the emptiness in their eyes. Blackwood's estate sprawled across 30 acres of immaculately landscaped wilderness, a modernist glass and stone monument to isolation. The staff called it the Ice Palace behind his back, not for its appearance but for its owner's demeanor. That afternoon, I was cleaning the solarium, his favorite room, though he'd never admit to having preferences. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the dense woods beyond, bringing nature indoors without the inconvenience of actually experiencing it. Typical Blackwood, wanting beauty but keeping it at a safe distance. I was on my knees, scrubbing a stubborn water stain when the intercom buzzed. "Zora." His voice always sent a chill down my spine, not from fear but from its hollow precision. "Bring the Macallan to my study." "The 82. "Not please." "Never please." I found him at his desk, surrounded by holographic displays showing stock prices and satellite imagery of what looked like uncharted islands. He didn't look up when I entered. "Your whiskey, Mr. Blackwood." "Set it down." I placed the crystal tumbler on the coaster. Heaven forbid there'd be a ring on his $100,000 desk. Something made me linger. Perhaps it was the unusual tension in his shoulders or the way his fingers drummed against the mahogany. Blackwood never fidgeted. "Will that be all, sir?" I asked, knowing the answer would be dismissal. Instead, he surprised me. "What do you see there, Zora?" He gestured toward one of the floating screens. For the first time in 6 months, he'd asked my opinion. I stepped closer, studying the satellite image. "An island, sir?" "Seems remote." "My next acquisition. A private sanctuary. Untouched by human interference." "Except yours," I said before I could stop myself. His eyes met mine then, truly met them, for the first time. Something flickered there. Amusement? Irritation? I couldn't tell. "Indeed." He turned back to his screens. "That will be all." I was nearly at the door when I heard it, a soft, sinister hiss that sent primal fear coursing through me. Near Blackwood's feet, partially hidden by the desk, coiled a snake with distinctive diamond patterns on its back. My blood turned to ice. "Mr. Blackwood," I whispered. "Don't move. I don't take orders from. There's a diamondback rattlesnake under your desk." His face remained impassive, but his knuckles whitened around his pen. "Are you certain?" The snake's rattle began to buzz, a death warning. Its head rose, triangular and menacing. "Absolutely certain." My heart hammered in my chest. "It's about to strike." What happened next seems like slow motion in my memory. The snake lunged just as Blackwood pushed his chair back. I didn't think, I acted. Grabbing the heavy crystal decanter from the bar cart beside me, I hurled it at the snake with all my strength. Glass shattered. Whiskey sprayed. The snake's strike missed Blackwood's leg by inches as my projectile connected, stunning it. But the creature recovered quickly, redirecting its rage toward me. Its second strike was a blur of motion. I felt the burning pain before I registered what had happened, fangs sinking into my forearm as I instinctively raised it to protect myself. The venom spread like liquid fire beneath my skin. Blackwood moved with unexpected speed, grabbing a letter opener from his desk and driving it through the snake's head with surgical precision. Our eyes met over the dead reptile, his wide with something I'd never seen before, fear. Not for himself, but for me. "Zora," he said, his voice suddenly human, vulnerable. My God. The room began to spin as the venom worked through my system. My knees buckled. The last thing I remember before darkness claimed me was the sensation of strong arms catching me and the unfamiliar sound of Alexander Blackwood's voice calling my name with genuine emotion. "Stay with me, Zora. Don't you dare leave me now." I awoke to the steady beep of medical monitors and the antiseptic smell of hospital-grade disinfectant. My arm throbbed beneath layers of bandages. Confusion clouded my thoughts until fragments of memory crystallized, the snake, the searing pain, Blackwood's face transformed by concern. "She's awake," said an unfamiliar voice. I forced my heavy eyelids open. I wasn't in a hospital as I'd assumed. I was in a private medical suite I didn't know existed within Blackwood's estate. A doctor in a tailored suit stood beside my bed, but it was the figure by the window that drew my attention. Alexander Blackwood stared out at the gathering dusk, his silhouette sharp against the fading light. At the doctor's words, he turned. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His usually impeccable appearance was disheveled, shirt wrinkled, stubble darkening his jaw. "Leave us," he commanded the doctor, who immediately complied. When we were alone, Blackwood approached my bedside with uncharacteristic hesitation. "You've been unconscious for 26 hours. I tried to sit up, wincing at the pain that shot through my arm. "The snake. Dead. You, however, nearly joined it." His voice was flat, but something in his eyes betrayed him. "The antivenin almost didn't arrive in time." "I'm sorry about your whiskey," I said weakly. "The Macallan 82. It must have been expensive." A sound escaped him, something between a laugh and a gasp. "You saved my life with a $50,000 bottle of scotch, and you're apologizing." He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "Remarkable. Just doing my job, Mr. Blackwood. Your job description doesn't include intercepting venomous snakes." He pulled a chair closer to my bed and sat, another first. "Why did you do it?" The question hung between us. Why had I risked my life for a man who barely acknowledged me? The truth was as simple as it was complicated. "Because you're a human being," I said finally. "And so am I." Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the perfect mask he always wore. "The doctor says you'll make a full recovery, though the scarring will be..." He trailed off, glancing at my bandaged arm. "I've survived worse," I replied, though I wasn't sure that was true. He nodded, then reached for something on the bedside table, a leather portfolio. "I've taken the liberty of arranging some things while you were unconscious." He placed it in my lap. "Open it." Inside were documents, legal papers with official seals. My vision was still blurry, but one number stood out clearly. A check for $1 million. "What is this?" I whispered. "Compensation. For your injuries." I closed the portfolio and pushed it back toward him. "I don't want your money, Mr. Blackwood." Confusion crossed his face. People didn't refuse Alexander Blackwood's money. "You saved my life at the risk of your own. You deserve." "What I deserve is respect, not payment." The words came out sharper than I'd intended. Perhaps it was the venom still coursing through my system, or perhaps it was 6 months of invisibility finally catching up to me. He stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. Maybe he was. "Tell me about yourself, Zora Wilson," he said quietly. "Who are you when you're not saving billionaires from reptiles?" It was such an unexpected request that I laughed, then grimaced at the pain it caused. "Why do you suddenly care?" "Humor me." So I did. I told him about growing up in Baltimore with a single mother who worked 3 jobs to put me through college. About my degrees in art history and environmental science. About the promising career I'd abandoned when Mom's multiple sclerosis diagnosis demanded round-the-clock care that insurance wouldn't cover. So you took a job as a maid, he said, to pay medical bills. I took a job that paid enough to keep my mother alive and comfortable, I corrected. The title doesn't matter to me. He fell silent, studying me with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. What about you? I asked, surprising myself with my boldness. Who is Alexander Blackwood when he's not building empires and collecting islands? A shadow passed over his face. I'm not sure I know anymore. The admission seemed to surprise him as much as it did me. He stood abruptly, moving to the window again as if retreating from his own vulnerability. There was an investigation, he said after a long silence. The snake didn't get into my study by accident. My blood ran cold. Someone tried to kill you. He nodded. My security team found evidence of tampering with the solarium door. Someone deliberately captured and released that rattlesnake. But who would? I have enemies. Many of them. He turned back to face me. What I don't have are friends. The sadness in that simple statement pierced me more deeply than the snake's fangs had. My jet is being prepared, he continued. You'll be transported to Johns Hopkins tomorrow morning. They have the best specialists for venomous injuries. That's not necessary. I can recover here. It's not safe. Not for you. His jaw tightened. You've suffered enough consequences for my battles. So you're sending me away. I couldn't keep the hurt from my voice. I'm protecting you, Zora. And who's protecting you? Our eyes locked across the room. Something unspoken passed between us, something electric and dangerous. I've managed for 38 years, he said softly. Managed, yes. But have you lived? He had no answer for that. Instead, he moved toward the door. Rest. The doctor will check on you shortly. Mr. Blackwood, I called as he reached the threshold. He paused without turning. The snake was after you, not me. What happens when the next one comes, and I'm not here to throw ridiculously expensive alcohol at it? His shoulders tensed. For a moment, I thought he might say something meaningful. Instead, he simply said, "Good night, Zora," and closed the door behind him. But not before I caught the whispered words that followed, words I wasn't meant to hear. What happens to me doesn't matter anymore. As night settled over the estate, I lay awake wondering what secrets haunted the man whose life I'd saved, and why the thought of leaving him to face them alone filled me with such inexplicable dread. Dawn crept through the windows of the medical suite as I made my decision. The private jet to Baltimore would leave in 2 hours, but I wouldn't be on it. I disconnected the four from my arm, wincing as I peeled off the monitoring patches. Every movement sent pain radiating from my wound, but determination pushed me forward. I found clothes laid out in the adjoining bathroom, new, tags still attached, and exactly my size. The thought of Blackwood selecting these items made my cheeks warm. I dressed carefully, my bandaged arm protesting every motion, then slipped out into the hallway. The estate was quiet except for the distant sounds of staff preparing for the day. I made my way to Blackwood's study, not entirely sure what I was looking for. The room had been meticulously cleaned, no evidence remained of our violent encounter with the snake. Even the priceless whiskey had left no stain. I began searching through drawers, feeling like an intruder but compelled by something stronger than propriety. In the third drawer, beneath stacks of financial reports, I found a worn leather journal. My conscience screamed as I opened it, but the nagging feeling that Blackwood's life remained in danger silenced my moral objections. The journal contained handwritten entries dating back 5 years. The elegant script revealed a different Alexander Blackwood than the one I knew, a thoughtful, sometimes poetic, and deeply, profoundly alone. I flipped to recent entries, guilt gnawing at me with each page turned. September 15th, Davidson threatened exposure again. The board would remove me if they knew. Everything I've built would collapse. Payment made. Will this never end? October 2nd, dreams of the accident again. 15 years, yet I still hear the screams. I deserve this haunting. October 10th, acquired the island today. Perhaps there I can finally escape. Start again where no one knows my name or what I've done. Finding what you're looking for. I jumped, nearly dropping the journal. Blackwood stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. I'm sorry, I said, closing the journal and setting it on the desk. I had no right. No, you didn't. He crossed the room, but instead of anger, exhaustion lined his face. Your transport leaves in 90 minutes. I'm not going. His eyebrows rose. I wasn't asking. Neither am I. I stood my ground. Someone wants you dead, Mr. Blackwood, and you seem disturbingly unbothered by it. My safety isn't your concern. It became my concern when I took snake venom meant for you. I gestured to the journal. Who is Davidson, and what are they threatening to expose? Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. For a moment, I thought I'd pushed too far. Then his shoulders sagged, the weight of secrets visibly crushing him. 15 years ago, he began quietly, I was responsible for the deaths of 17 people. My breath caught. This wasn't what I'd expected. It was the early days of my company. We'd developed an experimental water filtration system for developing nations. He moved to the window, looking out but seeing something far away. I rushed production, ignored safety warnings. The system malfunctioned in a village in West Africa, contaminating the water supply with chemicals that... He closed his eyes. The children died first. Horror washed over me. But surely that was an accident. An accident born of arrogance and greed. His voice was razor sharp. I buried the evidence. Paid off officials. Built my empire on those graves. He turned to face me. Robert Davidson was my partner then. He helped cover it up, but over the years, he's extorted millions to keep the secret. And now he's escalated to murder. Perhaps. Or perhaps someone else discovered the truth. He approached me, his gaze intense. Now you know why you need to leave. I'm toxic, Zora. Everything I touch eventually pays the price. Is that why you keep everyone at a distance? Why you pretend not to see the people right in front of you? Pain flickered across his face. It's better that way. For whom? I challenged. The man I see before me isn't a monster, Alexander. He's someone haunted by his mistakes, someone who's punished himself for 15 years. Some sins can't be atoned for. Maybe not. But running away to your private island won't silence those children's voices. I took a step closer. You want redemption? Start by facing what's happening now. Let me help you. He studied me with bewilderment. Why would you want to help me after everything you know? Because I believe people can change. Even billionaires. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. You are extraordinary, Zora Wilson. Before he could say more, his security chief burst into the room. Sir, we have a situation. The property's been breached. Multiple armed intruders. Blackwood's demeanor transformed instantly. Lockdown protocol. Now. He grabbed my uninjured arm. We need to get to the panic room. We hurried down a hallway I'd cleaned 100 times, yet never noticed the hidden panel Blackwood now activated. A steel door slid open, revealing a narrow staircase. Go, he urged. Gunshots echoed from somewhere in the house. My heart hammered against my ribs. What about your staff? I asked. They have evacuation protocols. His eyes met mine. I can't lose you, Zora. Not now. The raw emotion in his voice stunned me. This wasn't the cold man I'd worked for all these months. This was someone else entirely, someone I was just beginning to know. As we descended into the darkness, alarms blaring above us, I realized with perfect clarity that I'd crossed a threshold from which there was no return. Whether by fate or foolishness, my life was now inextricably linked with Alexander Blackwood's, a man with blood on his hands and a target on his back. In the dim emergency lighting, he took my hand. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. Which truth? I asked, my voice barely audible above the chaos. His eyes held mine as the panic room door sealed us in together. That from the moment you threw that decanter, I knew you were the one person who could save me from more than just a snake. Outside, killers searched for him. Inside, we faced a different kind of danger, the kind that begins when two broken people recognize in each other the possibility of becoming whole. The panic room was a fortress within a fortress, bulletproof walls, independent ventilation, and enough supplies to last weeks. 6 monitors displayed security feeds from throughout the estate, showing black-clad figures methodically searching each room. I counted 8 intruders, all armed with military precision. "They're professionals," Alexander murmured, his fingers flying over a keyboard. "Not Davidson's style." "Then who?" His jaw tightened. "I have theories." On screen, the intruders reached the East Wing, where the staff quarters were located. My heart sank as they forced Evans, the elderly groundskeeper, to his knees. "They're going to hurt them to draw you out," I whispered. Alexander's eyes never left the screen. "No one else dies because of me." He reached for a phone I hadn't noticed, punching in a series of numbers. Authorization code Blackwood 7 Zulu Tango. Full property evacuation and containment. Immediately, alarms different from the previous ones blared throughout the estate. On the monitors, I watched hidden panels open in walls and floors. Staff I recognized emerged from hiding places, helping each other toward concealed exits. "You had escape routes for them," I said, surprised. "I told you, there are protocols." The hardness in his voice couldn't quite mask the relief as Evans and the others disappeared from view, evacuating through tunnels beneath the property. The intruders, momentarily confused by the new alarms, regrouped in the main foyer. Their leader spoke into a radio, gesturing toward the East Wing. "They know about the panic room," Alexander said quietly. "It's only a matter of time before they find the entrance." "What do they want?" "Me. Dead." He turned to face me. "But first, they'll want what's in my safe." "Which is?" "Evidence. Everything I've kept hidden about the African village. Names, dates, records of payments." His eyes met mine. The truth that could destroy everything. Understanding dawned. "You weren't planning to run away to your island. You were going to come forward." A hint of wonder crossed his face. "How did you know?" "The journal entry said you wanted to go somewhere no one knew what you'd done, not to escape consequences, but to live without the weight of others' knowledge." I stepped closer to him. "You've been punishing yourself for 15 years, but that's not the same as making amends." For a long moment, he was silent, studying me as if I were a puzzle he couldn't solve. "The evidence won't just implicate me," he finally said. "Powerful people were involved in the cover-up. People who would rather see me dead than exposed." On the monitors, the intruders had split up, methodically checking walls and floors for hidden entrances. "If they get that evidence, no one will ever know the truth," I said. "Those families will never get justice." Alexander's expression hardened with resolve. "There's another way out of here. A tunnel that leads to the boathouse." He moved to a cabinet, retrieving a small hard drive. "This contains everything, all the evidence, plus a full confession I recorded last week." He pressed it into my hand, closing my fingers around it. "You need to take this and go. Get it to FBI Special Agent Diana Chen in the Baltimore field office. She's been investigating rumors of the incident for years." I stared at him in disbelief. "And what about you?" "I'll create a diversion. Buy you time." "That's suicide." "It's penance." His voice was calm, decided. Anger flared within me. "So that's it? Your grand redemption plan is martyrdom." I pushed the hard drive back toward him. "That's not courage, Alexander. That's just another form of running away." He flinched as if I'd slapped him. Those children didn't die so you could throw your life away in some misguided sacrifice, I continued. They died because of a system that values profit over people, a system you helped create. You want redemption? Then live to change that system. For several heartbeats, neither of us spoke. On the monitors, 2 intruders discovered the hidden panel leading to our sanctuary. They began working to override the lock. 2 minutes before they breach, Alexander said, his eyes never leaving mine. What would you have me do, Zora? I made my decision in that moment, perhaps the most reckless of my life. We go together. Both of us take the evidence to the authorities. I took his hand. I didn't save you from a snake just to watch you die now. Something broke open in his expression, vulnerability, hope, fear, all mingled together. Why do you care what happens to me? Because in 6 months of silence, I saw glimpses of the man you could be. And because? I hesitated, then pushed forward. Because when you finally looked at me, really looked, I saw myself reflected in your eyes. The intruders were seconds from breaking through. Alexander pulled me toward a bookcase that concealed another hidden door. If we survive this, he said, I'm going to spend every day trying to become the man you believe I can be. The tunnel was narrow and damp, illuminated only by emergency lights that cast long shadows. We moved as quickly as my injured arm would allow, the sounds of pursuit growing distant behind us. After what felt like miles, we emerged into the boathouse where a sleek vessel waited. Can you drive this thing? I asked. A genuine smile touched his lips for the first time. I grew up on boats before I became. He gestured vaguely at himself. This. As we sped across the dark water, lights from the estate illuminated the sky behind us. Explosions rocked the night, the intruders destroying what they couldn't find. Everything I built, Alexander murmured, watching flames engulf his home. Buildings can be rebuilt, I said softly. Lives can't. He nodded, understanding the deeper meaning. His hand found mine in the darkness. Dawn was breaking as we reached the mainland. Alexander made the call to FBI Agent Chen, arranging our surrender and protection. As we waited on the deserted dock, he turned to me. When this is over, after the trials and testimony, I'll likely have nothing left. You'll have the truth, I replied. And maybe that's where you start rebuilding. The truth, he repeated, gazing out at the horizon where his burning estate was now just a distant glow. And will you be there, Zora? After everything comes to light. I thought about my mother, about the care she would still need, about the uncertain future ahead. But I also thought about second chances and the rarest thing of all, redemption. I'll be there, I promised. Not as your employee or your savior. Then as what? His eyes held mine, vulnerable and hopeful. As someone walking the same path toward making things right. I squeezed his hand. One step at a time. The sound of approaching vehicles broke the moment. Alexander straightened his shoulders, the weight of 15 years of secrets visibly lifting as he prepared to face justice. I'm afraid, he admitted quietly. I know. I stood beside him, shoulder to shoulder. But fear means you're finally alive. As the FBI agents approached, Alexander Blackwood, the man who had lived behind walls of wealth and isolation, stepped forward with the evidence of his crimes in one hand and my hand in the other. In that moment, I understood that sometimes saving a life means more than throwing yourself between danger and another person. Sometimes it means being the bridge that helps them find their way back to humanity, and in doing so, perhaps finding your own. Thank you so much for following Zora and Alexander's journey from beginning to end. Their story reminds us that redemption is possible, but never easy, and that sometimes the people who seem coldest are the ones most desperate for human connection. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe for more emotional tales of unlikely connections and second chances. I'd be deeply grateful to hear your thoughts in the comments. What did you think of their journey? What do you imagine happens next for Zora and Alexander? Your support means the world to me.